Hello and welcome to the Hot Seat on Full Sail Live. I'm Josh Taylor, and joining me tonight to share some insights on his career covering sports is New York Red Bulls reporter for SB Nation's Once a Metro and the host of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show, Daniel Feuerstein. Daniel, thank you for joining me on the show tonight.
Josh, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation.
All right, Daniel. Well, let's go ahead and get this party started, shall we?
Let's go. Where's the music? I want to go and dance.
All right. Daniel, how did you get involved with covering soccer in the New York metropolitan area?
Well, it goes back well before I even started doing this. I used to work for a sports news service in South Hackensack, New Jersey. It was called Sports News Satellite. The company is at the time, Phoenix Communications Group, and not as in Phoenix, Arizona. The P stood for Mr. Joseph Podesta, and the H, I forget the gentleman's last name, but that was his partner. So it's really owned by two gentlemen that used to work for Major League Baseball Productions, and they decided to start their own company. The company, of course, created the original This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen, and of course, either Power Stick or Brute Hockey Week that would always be aired, whether it be, I guess, if you saw it in whatever the local WPIX channel would be in Orlando, or be like WPIX in New York on Channel 11, then of course WOR TV on Channel 9 in New York, whatever would be where you are in Florida. And of course, the Brute Stick, the Power Stick, or the Brute Hockey Week show would be on either. Then, of course, you had Sunshine Network, which is now run by Fox Sports, so it's Fox Sports Sun or Fox Sports Florida. So it would be on during that time. I basically worked for the company that had both NBC and CBS affiliates to basically feed every single highlight of every sport, whether it be the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball, MLS, the Olympics, golf, tennis, and any big event that NBC wants to cover. That got sent to to the main hubs. For CBS in New York City, for NBC, it was Charlotte, and then it would be streamed or fed to all affiliates across the United States. Also, we had affiliates in Canada that also took our feed. So that would be the Score in Canada, I believe it was. So, I got into that because I was originally I wanted to be an editor. For sports broadcasts, for editing highlight packages, and I did a little bit of that. But most of the time, I was just viewing and helping the editors out to go from 9 innings, 4 quarters, 3 periods, 2 halves, a couple of sets here, a round or 2 rounds of golf, and you have to cut it into a 1 minute and 30-second highlight package because you have to make sure you get everything and anything to squeeze into that 1:30. So. And sometimes you have to update things. So, if something screwy happens or something big happens. So that's how I got started. And then, look, I became a fan back in the early years. I was born in 1973. The New York Cosmos, the original North American Soccer League, was around. My parents took me to the games at Giant Stadium. And then, of course, after a certain amount of years, it went away. And then the World Cup came in 1994, and I got the bug again. And from that point on, I was like, I'm going to be a dedicated fan. I'm going to stick with this, and I'm going to be supporting of the local New York or New Jersey team that's going to play in the metropolitan area in New York City. And that was, of course, at the time, the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. And they played at Giant Stadium like the Cosmos did. And then one day, 1999 season was the worst season in the history of the club because they only won 9 games and lost 25. So I got frustrated. I got angry. I wrote something up. My dad, pretty good with, checking on my grammar and everything. I said to him, "What do you think? Does this make sense?" It makes perfect sense. You did a great job. You should do something like this if you want to. And that's what happened. I started with a one-page newsletter I delivered to in Hoboken, New Jersey, to like at least 2 bars, and people loved my stuff, and I just kept on going. And then one day, magical things happened, and I started working with, of course, like you've told me off air, you've interviewed Carter Kirschneier. Him and I are colleagues together. At the time, it was the EPL Talk, MLS Talk conglomerate, which is now only World Soccer Talk. So joined up with them, then moved on to other sites, Soccer Newsday, and then finally, I have been with Once a Metro, part of SB Nation, Sports Blog Nation, these last, let's say, 4 years, I think it is now, 4 or 5 years now with them. But I've been doing this for a very, very long time, since to my one-page writing days, since I would say the 2000 year of 2000.
You mentioned there that you grew up going to Cosmos games and then covering the New York Red Bulls. Of course, at the time before were New Jersey Metro Stars, and seeing the New York soccer scene up in New York and New Jersey. I was just curious, from your eyes, how do you think the soccer landscape has changed in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area since you started covering the game?
It somewhat has changed a bit, but I can honestly tell you there's still the same old problems that are still going around. It has changed, obviously, because we have more than one professional team in the area. Obviously, the New York Cosmos came back to be in existence, but they played at the time at the brand new, a second version of the North American Soccer League. We've had, of course, many amateur clubs that are in the New York City area. There's, of course, in the Cosmopolitan League, there's too many of them that I can count. We, of course, former Open Cup title holders, Greek American Atlas, Brooklyn Italians. They've won their fair share of Open Cup championships before MLS ever decided to become part of the Open Cup fabric. And the funny thing is, the New York Cosmos, they've never won, nor have, when there was the original teams, the NASL never participated in the Open Cup. And, that was their decision. They felt it was not part of, their, I guess, they didn't want to be a part of it. They just rather have their own league, not worry about these sort of things, and just move forward. But all I can tell you is that there's just a lot of clubs here in the New York, New Jersey area. We have Hoboken 1832. Of course, they're based in Hoboken, New Jersey. With the NISA League coming along now, there's New Jersey Teamsters FC. They play, I think, in Bayonne. You've got New Amsterdam Football Club that plays in not too far, Orange County in New York State. They play just outside of not far from Woodbury Commons, a very famous outlet mall that everyone goes to. It doesn't matter if you're from the city, from the suburbs, or if you're from out of town or out of the country and visiting. Everybody goes there and gets a great deal. But other than that, but when MLS wanted that second New York City team to be in the 5 boroughs, that right now, I mean, it's been a positive, but it's also been a negative, because once again, they're playing in a baseball stadium, and I understand Manchester City is their majority owner. The New York Yankees are a part owner for like 20%, but they're playing in a baseball stadium. And the point is that you were hoping to get teams to come in with a plan to build a professional and a soccer-specific stadium, a stadium made for soccer. Obviously, Seattle is playing in an NFL stadium, but it works in Seattle because they are diehard soccer fans over there. They love it. In New York City, this is the negative part, I should say. In New York City, we have almost 2 or 3 teams of everything. And even in northeastern New Jersey, it's still part of the fabric, regardless of what anyone says. We have two baseball teams, the Yankees and the Mets, two NFL teams in both the New York Football Giants and the New York Jets. Yes, we still say the Football Giants because why? Because there were two Giants teams in New York City, which of course is the Football Giants and the Baseball Giants, which of course are now in San Francisco, the San Francisco Giants. We have two NBA teams. We have the Knicks and we have the Nets, who have been bouncing back and forth from New York and New Jersey, over the Hudson too many times. And of course, we have three hockey teams. We have in Long Island, we have the New York Islanders. In Manhattan, we have the New York Rangers. And yes, New Jersey Devils are also a part of the situation. So, like I said, the northern part of New Jersey is all New York. The southern part of New Jersey, it's all Philadelphia. Central Jersey is like the real New Jersey because that's like their own. Because they'll have attachments to whatever side of the state you're going to be in because you have, two of the top cities in the Northeast right there, like just stuck right in between. But still, though, New Jersey, it's their own state, but the truth is there's a lot of New York sports fans in the north. There's a lot of Philadelphia sports fans in the south. Take your pick. It's up to you. And the negative besides that is in this city, there's still no respect, whether it's the New York Red Bulls or if it's New York City FC or even if it's the Cosmos. You'll still get your dedicated fan base. You'll still get your top-notch supporters to come to the home matches. It will always be there, no questions asked. The problem, once again, is the coverage. What are the local New York papers doing? They don't want to bother with it. Sure, Yankees have their own sports network, and yes, so they have to broadcast the New York City FC games. The New York Red Bulls, of course, when they were the Metro Stars, have been a part of Madison Square Garden Network for a long, long time. But the problem is it's still the coverage in the papers. It's still the coverage on sports radio. There is no respect for this game in this country. And the great example is the New York Times. They will only cover European soccer, European football. They want nothing to do with MLS. Sure, they'll do the U.S. men's national team or the U.S. women's national team. They'll never, ever bother with the local teams unless you're going to get a huge name to play for these teams. Of course, there was Thierry Henry, the last huge name for the Red Bulls. There was David Villa for New York City FC. But since then, it's been nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's not what it should be. It should be dedicated coverage, period. But unfortunately, we're still striving for that here in the Northeast, or at least in the New York City area.
It looks like it's still growing, still going to be a while. I know people have said, oh, it might pass hockey or it might pass baseball. I mean, who knows? But from what I've seen from soccer coverage like 10, 20 years ago, where you used to watch like Fox Sports World or something to watch a game, to now where it's on ESPN, Fox, CBS Sports has the Champions League. I mean, who would have thought a bidding war with so many different networks get soccer?
Exactly. Here's the thing. And once again, it's ratings. That's the issue as well, is that, the American soccer fan base is also just as fractured as is sports fans' fan bases, because you're always going to get those that are going to be traditionally watching the typical four sports. You'll always get hockey fans. You'll always get basketball fans. You'll always get NFL football fans. You'll always get baseball fans. That's not the problem. The problem is that how are you going to get a soccer fan to stay an American soccer fan? Because, as you know as well as I do, the main crux of the argument is there's no single table to determine a champion in MLS. There's no promotion and relegation between the leagues in American soccer. And, you know, that problem continues to exist. And many people still point to MLS like, why aren't you allowing this? Why aren't you allowing that? But the truth is, that's not their call. Don Garber, yeah, he sits on the board for U.S. Soccer in Chicago, but still, though, whoever the president is, whoever the board members are, they need to bring every single owner or ownership group together at whenever they have their AGM meetings, regardless of where they are. We must have a discussion about what are the benefits of having promotion relegation in American soccer. What can we do to shock the typical sports fan who are not soccer fans? How do we appease soccer fans that hate MLS and will only care about what goes on in Europe or in South America or in Mexico or anywhere else around the world they watch their football, their soccer? How are you going to get them to be a part of this? You know, when MLS got started, the clock counted down from 45-0 in both halves. And they had to stop the clock for injuries and substitutions. So there would be no added time or no stoppage time at the end of every half. The only time it was ever allowed would be during Open Cup play. But, you know, when Don Garber came over as commissioner of Major League Soccer, at the end of the 1999 season in 2000, he said, that's it. We're going to go with the regular way. We're going to count it up. We're going to go from 0 to 45 stoppage time, 45 to 90 stoppage time. We're going to be like the rest of the world. And so far, he's made that it's been a good decision, because you can't keep on, you know, making up things that goes along. Either you play the game the way it's supposed to be played, or you don't participate at all. And Don Garber has done a wonderful job with the league. Yes, there's been some questions. There's been some question marks about certain things he has ruled and what to do and how to do it, and all these GAM, TAM, the designated player, which was a great thing, but still, you know, we still have a budget that we have to follow. The original, I keep forgetting the word, the original DP, which is not designated player, was always something else. I forgot the name of it right now, but that's okay. You know, we got to get the soccer community back together. The American soccer community must come back and be joined as a whole. You cannot have MLS, U.S. men's national team fans only against, we hate MLS, we love the U.S. men's national team, but we're only going to watch European soccer. We need those two factions to come back together and to form one positive group, because we cannot continue to have these war of words going on, not just out in public, but also on social media. There are certain people out there that still hate MLS. They call it a cheap version of what a real soccer league is all about. I'm not going to get into the whole Ted situation. I think you might know who he is. But, you know, the truth is, instead of being dividers, we got to be uniters, and that's everyone and everyone.
Let's go into because you mentioned that you first started covering soccer with the networks, but you also did some work with covering the U.S. Open Cup. And I was just curious, as we talked about off air, I did do some stuff for the U.S. Open Cup too, but I want to know what it was like for you when you did it 14, 15, 16 years ago. Like, what was it like when you covered during that time?
Well, you know, the Open Cup, let me go back to when I first discovered it. Here's the funny thing. I never knew about the Open Cup when I started to rewatch soccer. You know, I never knew about the FA Cup in England. All I knew was there was a league, the Premier League. You know, there's the Bundesliga in Germany. You know, there's Serie A in Italy. There's La Liga in Spain. I had no idea about the FA Cup. So one day, after MLS started in 1996, I found an MLS merchandise catalog, and I think it was in Barnes and Nobles. So I bought it, took it home. And as soon as I opened up the inside the first page, there was DC United. Of course, they won the inaugural Major League Soccer championship against the LA Galaxy at Foxborough. But they were pictured with a trophy that I had no idea what it was at that time. Absolutely no idea. So I called some friends who were better at the time of knowledge of soccer than I was, and I asked, what is this thing I'm seeing in the MLS merchandise catalog? Oh, you mean the one that's for 1997? Yeah. Why? You have it? Yeah. Opened it up. He said, yeah, that's the Thomas R. Dewar trophy. Well, what trophy is that for? It's for the U.S. Open Cup. Well, what is that about? Single elimination tournament. One game only. You got to win it to advance, and if you lose it, you go home. Like, really? This is awesome. So that's how I got started with it. And then, of course, you talk about, the draws and, how these teams get paired and everything. And, it's been a lot of fun covering these games. I remember originally started with the usopencup.com, which is now the cup.us. It was run at the time before Josh Hackala ran. It was Chuck Nolan Jr., I think it was, who was running it. And, I contacted him through emails like, you need any help with the Open Cup games, like for writing and stuff? He goes, yeah, I need help. If you want to write, go ahead. I did. Trying to remember. Stanislaus United Cruisers, I think they were over in California. I think I wrote an article about them. There was another semi-pro team I wrote about based in California, Seacoast United, I think. I could be wrong, but when I wrote an article about their run at first, they were so happy. They emailed me back and said, we love you. You're talking about us. You're great. And from that point on, it's just been, writing, covering, love seeing these, little teams, trying to make a run, get to Major League Soccer level or that round where MLS starts and try to knock off an MLS team. It was pretty cool. And no one will ever forget 1999, the Colorado Rapids losing 2-0 to the Rochester Rhinos in the Open Cup final at Columbus Crew Stadium. That match broadcasted on ESPN and unfortunately died on ESPN at that time because they thought the Rapids were easily going to beat the Rhinos. But the Rhinos played like like they're supposed to do, a professional soccer team. Sure, they're in the second division. They're in the AAA league at that time. You thought they're going to get pulverized. Nothing in the first half. Next thing you know, Rochester pulls off the upset, and they win 2-0. And then it's like, okay, we're not going to show this anymore. And thankfully, Fox Soccer at the time were showing a couple of games, a fourth-round game, a quarterfinal game, both semis, the final. Then it was only the final. Gold TV had it for just the final, which was really disappointing because why is the final only on TV? We should have every match of every round broadcasted. Thank God for streaming on ESPN and their ESPN Plus streaming platform because so worth it. We have seen so many matches, even YouTube before ESPN Plus, so many matches you watch. And I would always have an Excel program for every single round of every Open Cup season just to follow. If it was a goal, just do it regular. If it was a yellow card, you have a yellow background with the player's name, what minute. If it was a penalty, you put the little P inside the parentheses. If it was a straight red card, just red and black. If it was a second yellow becoming red, what I would do is that player's name in yellow, but in the minute, it would be a red background. And then, of course, you get to gold and goal or overtime. You do it in gold and white. If it goes to penalties, you do light blue and white, and you just type in 1 for you make it and 0 if you don't. And, you know, when I was approached by Rabble to call Open Cup whip around shows, I was like, yes, I will do it. It's not so much, it's like, you know, I had to do it, but I felt it was an honor to call these games, you know, just what's going on, how's it going on, how you see fit. So many magical moments. I'll never forget the Chattanooga FC Atlanta Silverbacks matchup. That baby went into extra time, and, you know, calling that goal was unreal. I was loving it. I know the Silverbacks pulled off a rabbit out of their hat and ripped a big shot top shelf into the back of the net, and I just went absolutely crazy. We had the one where Charleston beat Orlando City in an Open Cup, and it went to penalties. And that was like, I think, 3-3 or 4-4 in regulation, and we went straight to penalties. I think Charleston won it. And basically, I was like, I can't believe what's going on here. This game is going bananas. And to have an audience in a chat room on Rabble at the same time you're broadcasting these Open Cup whip around shows was absolutely incredible. Incredible. Now, I did not do the final because I made it a point where I'm going to do every single game possible that I can. But if it gets to national television on the final, well, that means everyone can watch it. So I said that, you know, I'm not going to do the final because it's under national television. Everyone should watch the Open Cup final. So now that ESPN Plus, after 1 year, has been doing these Open Cup games, obviously that ended Open Cup whip around shows. Rabble ended kind of early, unfortunately. But, you know, if they didn't change their concept, I would have been doing these Open Cup games, you know, forever and ever and ever. I've been doing whip around shows forever and ever and ever. Tried that once with allinsportstalk.com. And it worked for 1 year, but then the whole system basically shut down. So, but still, no matter what, I will always sponsor, I will always support, I will always love the Open Cup because you want to see David knock off a Goliath. This is how much fun it is. And nothing beats fun like Tampa Bay Rowdies at St. Louis FC. That was an unbelievable match. Or no, not Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. Oklahoma City Energy against St. Louis FC. That match was unbelievable. I think that went 5-4, and the goals were coming in hard and fast. It was unbelievable to watch that match. That matchup back in 2018. The run that FC Cincinnati made in 2017 was unbelievable until the Red Bulls stopped them. Even Miami FC made that fantastic run until both they and Cincinnati met in the quarterfinals, which had to be postponed because of torrential rain pouring coming down in Miami at FIU Stadium in Miami, Florida. I mean, you know, these are the games that people want to see. And you never know what themes are going to be in the Open Cup. It could be, okay, there'll be how many red cards in every round? Own goals will be the winners in every round, we're going to have tons of penalty kicks being taken in every round. I mean, what will be the theme for every Open Cup that begins? It takes every Open Cup season always has a mind of their own. And we don't know what's going to happen. That's what makes the Open Cup a lot of fun. And it's a real shame that it had to be canceled, even though I understood why it had to be canceled. There was not enough dates remaining to restart or at least attempt some form of a first round, even though the NPSL and USL League Two and the amateur leagues canceled their seasons, and the qualifying round are also canceled for 2021. So thankfully for U.S. Soccer, they decided to grandfather every team that qualified for 2020 to go straight into 2021. And that's the fair way of doing it, which I'm glad this is what they did. Yeah, but I love the Open Cup, man. I love it. It's great. You know, it's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of fun. And yes, I hope the Red Bulls get back into the final and win it. Finally, you know, we'll see what happens.
I'm Josh Taylor, and this is the Hot Seat on Full Sail Live. And in case you missed anything, joining us right now is New York Red Bulls reporter for SB Nation's Once a Metro and the host of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show, Daniel Feuerstein. Daniel, speaking of your show, let's talk about how your show got started. Your show has been going strong since 2010, but what led you to creating the show in the first place?
Well, before I started the show, I was part of the Champion Soccer Radio Network. It was an online soccer show. Gary Richards, a former Fox soccer analyst, Graham Bell, were the executive producers of that online soccer radio talk show channel. And I was a part of the Around the League in 90 Minutes, which talked about Major League Soccer clubs and what they did. At the time, pardon me, I kind of recruited some of the people through the internet if they want to be a part of it. They knew some people as well. And then one day they were looking for an assistant producer just to keep the times, check the times, and email our sound engineer to give her the information, like who's going to be first, who's going to be second, third, fourth, fifth, whatever. And, you know, time zones are always going to be difficult. So I had to make sure I kept everyone in the loop and got their emails. And then, of course, Carter Krishnar had his own American soccer show at the time. And then when sadly that fell apart, I was contemplating about doing my own show. I've been thinking about it for a while. I said, one day, maybe I'll do my own show on the network. Well, when that died, I just said to myself, you know what? Maybe I should do my own thing. I want to see, I think I can do my own thing. I talked to my wife about it, and she said, you know what? Look, if you feel strong about it, you should do it. I asked friends, even my colleague, Carter Krishnar, I said to him, what do you think? He said, you're knowledgeable enough. You go ahead and do it. You go ahead and, discuss American soccer. I think you'd be great at it. And gradually, you first get started, you're a little slow, you're a little all over the place. But then as you get more comfortable and talking about the game, how you're going to discuss these things and have great discussions and talking about what goes on, not just in Major League Soccer, but you also have to discuss what's going on in the United Soccer Leagues. You have to also know what's going on at the time, the NASL. At the time, PDL, which is now USL League 2. Now, of course, USL League 1 has been around after 1 year. And my main crux at the time was to talk about all the leagues in America, talk about the Open Cup, and then it just gradually grown into all these other tournaments that MLS or U.S. Soccer got involved with. And that's been friendlies for the men, the World Cup qualifying post-game shows. I've done pre-game shows for World Cup qualifying, the Gold Cups, the World Cup itself, Women's World Cups. If there's Olympics, I try and talk about the Olympics. CONCACAF Champions League, now that we're able to watch these games that sometimes you couldn't watch, or if it was only on Spanish language television, but they didn't show the MLS teams, then, you got problems. But to finally say, like, you're covering anything and everything American soccer, it's been fun. Let me tell you what happened. And I love telling this story because, you love to talk about the successes you have. I've had some duds. I'll admit it. There's been some shows I've had duds on. But you know what, though? I got ready for my next show. I'm ready to go. But let me tell you what happened. qualification for Brazil 2014 World Cup, when the United States defeated Mexico back at Mopri Stadium. I'm going to call it Columbus Crew Stadium because that's what should have always been. When the U.S. beat Mexico 2-0 in Columbus. My post-game show was really, really good. I had a friend, of course, knowledgeable about American soccer, and I also had a Mr. Eric Gomez for ESPN Spanish language television, and he gave me the Mexico side of things because I want to be fair. I always want to be fair when it comes to either the CONCACAF Champions League, World Cup qualifying, where I can get a guest representing the opponent for the U.S. I want that. I want to be fair, and I want to be, equally balanced on both sides, because I feel like the audience should have a view from every side of the argument. And if I don't, then it's going to be basically pro-American. There's nothing more I can say or do about that. But when I was finished with my post-game show for the USA-Mexico World Cup qualifier in Columbus back in 2013, which I think was around September, at the time, there's a live, your totals for live broadcast, your totals for archive broadcast, and it showed zeros. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's strange. I usually get people who listen right away. I don't want much. I just want, maybe 5 or 10 or 15, and it's fine. I'm not greedy or anything. That was on a Tuesday. And then I went back to the thing on Wednesday. And then finally some numbers showed up. It said about maybe 15 to 20 people. Like, okay, 20 archived, happy, no problem. I'm happy. Left it alone. Thursday morning, I wake up, click to episodes, and then it hit 3,000. I'm like, what? 3,000 people? That's impossible. And I just said to myself, let me refresh this page. Let me refresh the page. Refreshed it, 4,000. Refreshed it again, 5,000. Refreshed it again, 6,000. Again, 7,000. I nearly had 8,000 listens for that post-game show. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was so excited. I was ecstatic. I was happy. And in just that year of 2013, which I was very successful with, to this day, it's over 55,000 listens for the whole year. Beginning of 2014, I hit 10,000 combined listens for one show, where everything else was like 9,000, 7,000, 6,000, 5,000. I mean, it went through the roof. I could not believe how many listens I was earning. I was ecstatic. I said to myself, I have made it. I couldn't believe it. And I was just extremely excited, extremely happy, and very proud of myself, because this show at the time, sure, there's been some podcasts here and there. This is a live streaming show. This is a live streaming show where, I want to make it into a proper radio show. Sure, once in a while I'll record a segment for an interview, but I wanted this to be a really live show that maybe one day I get hired by a radio station and, get on the air to talk about soccer, if they ever want to give me a chance. Because I felt that this is the best way. I mean, fine, there's no commercials. I'm still trying to get advertisers, but, I'm just doing my best to make sure that my voice gets heard and people understand that this is going to be real discussion. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to pretend to be knowledgeable. I'm going to make sure that I'm knowledgeable about the subject that I'm covering. And, you know, if you love it, welcome aboard. If you don't like it, it's okay. You give it a shot. Have a fun night. But I'm very proud of what I've done. And I'm very close to 2,000 listens after 10 full years of doing this.
Now you just completed your 477th show. So you're 23 episodes away from your 500 episode. How has your show been? Why do you think your show has been so successful?
I think I've been so successful is because I'm trying to look at this game with not just a grain of salt, but with common sense. I understand the arguments. I understand the problems. I understand what the situations are. We cannot lose our heads. We cannot have factions. We have to come together to support this sport. I understand there are people that feel that MLS should be, or not just MLS, every league in U.S. Soccer Federation should be under the same umbrella. We should all do what everyone else does around the world. There's a full season in Europe. There's half seasons in South America, even in Mexico. You know, which one should we do? We should always have promotion relegation because we want the American player to feel like, you know, your job is on the line. Your spot is on the line, and right now you are either in 18th, 19th, or 20th place on the table. And I understand. Look, you know, you watch the Premier League and you see Nottingham Forest right now. I'm just making an example, of course. You know, Nottingham Forest is in the championship. I don't know where they really are, but I'm just going to, as an example, they're in the championship. They just made the playoffs. And then they're fighting for that third and final spot that gets them to go to the Premier League. And then they get to the Premier League next year. And then all of a sudden, at the end of that year, they have not gone past the 18th position of the table. So they get relegated back down. You know, I understand what people want. I mean, look how long it took Leeds United to be in the Championship League to finally getting back to the Premier League after so many years of not being in the top flight. You know, how many times are we going to see Barcelona, Real Madrid not leave La Liga, and then you have a small little team that probably used to be a big team maybe 20, 25 years ago or 30 years ago, and then because of finances, because of, you know, poor player development, that they've stuck in the lower levels, and they finally get back into it after 30 years or so. I mean, you know, when you talk about some of these teams that have been around for such a long period of time, but they haven't been in the top flight for over 20, 25 years, and they're finally back up, you know, it's like it's the biggest relief and the biggest celebration in the history. I mean, look what Leicester City did. Did anyone ever thought that you hire Claudio Ranieri and then he comes in after the previous year they remain in the Premier League by the skin of their teeth, and then out of the blue, they win the Premier League the very next season. Like a magical run you'd never ever see. You've never seen anything like that, whether it be in European football, South American football. You'll never see it in MLS, that's for sure, because everything's all parity, everything's all evened out. But the truth is that if we ever have I'm not going to say a proper league, but basically I'm going to say is this. If we are going to have MLS conform and all the other leagues conform to what goes on all around the world, well, that means U.S. Soccer is going to have to have a conversation with every single owner or ownership group and say, look, we know how much money you've put into this. We understand why you don't want, you know, why you've been dedicated to our plan. Yes, one day, we're going to have to change it up, because right now our top young American prospects are going to play in Europe. We have Tyler Adams for Red Bull Leipzig. We have Josh Sargent, the Borussia Mönchengladbach. We have Giovanni Reina, Claudio's son at Borussia Dortmund. We had Christian Pulisic also at Dortmund, but now he's with Chelsea in the Premier League. You know, we've had players who have played in the highest level in European football, in England and in Germany, mostly in Germany, because now the Germans are accepting American players. I don't know if we'll ever see an American player conform or adapt to La Liga. I think Serie A is possible. I think both Serie A and the Bundesliga are not just pace, but they're technical and tactical. But I think when you have a league like La Liga in Spain, it's everything. Technical, tactical, pace. I mean, you've got to really be like, you know, full on if you're going to play for clubs like Real Madrid or Barcelona. But at the same time, I don't even know if they're ever going to accept an American player to play over there. You know, you got to, you know, if you're going to be playing with Lionel Messi, you really got to be on the ball. You really got to pay attention to what he does, to put yourself in a position to accept the pass or to be in a position to pass it to him so he can score the goal. This is how big of a deal it is to have Americans playing in Europe. You know, fine. We've had players in Scotland. We've had players, you know, playing for Rangers or Celtic. That's not a big issue. There's an accent, but still, though, you speak English. Premier League's the same thing in England. It's just, you have to wonder what's going to happen with our national team. Are we ever going to win a World Cup? Do I believe we're going to win a World Cup? I will say this right now. I will always believe that our players will win the World Cup one day, whether it's going to be this upcoming 2022 if they qualify, or if they're going to do the hosting with Canada and Mexico in 2026. But I'm not going to sugarcoat the fact that as of right now, I think Greg Berhalter, and I want him to succeed, he's going to have problems. Because what U.S. soccer wants is something I don't think he can deliver. You're trying to ask a coach to take a bunch of players who have never played with each other for more than 2 weeks, maybe even a week and a half, during the international break, to play like Barcelona, to play like Real Madrid, to play like, you know, as they say in the business, champagne football. You're not going to get that, especially with our players, because they're playing in different systems. What is a national team coach supposed to do? Throw out the kitchen sink and see what works. Make sure the chemistry is there. That's all the national team coach has to do. Yes, there's tactics involved. Yes, there's formations involved. Yes, we have to make sure that the game plan is executed perfectly. But what is a national team coach supposed to do? Scout players, go to their respective clubs, whether it's in MLS, USL, or in Europe, and make sure you're keeping tabs on them, watching game film, watching matches live. And then when it's your turn to manage the national team and those players, that's when you get down to business, and that's when all the eyes of a nation are on you. Let me say this about U.S. soccer. While Greg Berhalter is a good person, I still believe that there were better coaches there to be had. Tata Martino has advantages on Greg Berhalter, not just on the club level, but on the national team level. And until Greg Berhalter can prove that he can beat Tata Martino and Mexico, I don't think we're going to beat Mexico ever again until Tata Martino leaves. And that's not just being at the Azteca. This is also being here in the States. Tata Martino has managed better footballers with his pinky finger than what Greg Berhalter has done. I'm not slighting him. I'm just telling you the facts. And I think that's what people need to understand. I'm giving you facts. I'm not giving you hope. I'm not giving you dreams. Don't get me wrong. I want to see the boys win. I want to see our national team win. I want to see them get one of the 3 automatic spots for qualifying for the World Cup for 2022. But what I'm doing is giving facts. I'm not making things up. I'm not insulting your intelligence. You want honesty? You want to hear my show and you want honest dialogue, real heart, real passion for this game? Yeah, I know I'm not on Sirius XMFC. I'm not on Fox Sports doing a podcast. I'm not on ESPN doing any soccer podcasts. I'm not on ESPN FC. But what I will give is an honest opinion about what I have seen, and do I like it? Do I dislike it? Am I going to be enthusiastic about it, or will I be letting them have it? Because that day in Trinidad and Tobago was a day that our players deserved every single negative criticism that was thrown their way. They deserved it because they thought it was a cakewalk, and you only needed 1 point. You should not have to depend on the other games to help you advance to the World Cup, let alone help you advance to the playoff round against another confederation. That should never have happened. That's not what they should have done. You take care of business, you go out, balls to the wall, and you destroy them like you know you've done in the past, into the present, and what you're going to do to them in the future. That B-side, C-side should never, ever have had a sniff of the net. Never. And our national team fell hard. Sure, Pulisic pulled one back. It's not his fault. He didn't assume anything. He kept on going. Dempsey didn't assume anything when he was subbed into the match. Those players deserve to be booed. They deserve to be yelled at because the program has been officially been set back a good number of years. Now we need to see what's going to happen with these kids, the future of this national team, and see what they can do now, not just for World Cup qualification, not just for the next Gold Cup coming, but apparently the CONCACAF Nations League semis and final. What are they going to do with that? They need to really grow up as fast as possible, unfortunately. But this is the situation that Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Omar Gonzalez, and everyone else on that national team destroyed back in Trinidad and Tobago in 2017.
I agree with you, Daniel, and it'll be very interesting to see how U.S. soccer going through this transition, getting these young players in, trying to get reps, and see how it turns out. I'm more curious to see what's going to happen with not just Mexico, but look, North Canada with Alphonso Davies and John David and what they're doing with that program. I mean, Canada could be a team in, who knows, 4, 5, 6 years that could be a team that could be competing for a championship. And not just them, but even the Caribbean.
If I apologize if I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
Let me say something about Canada right now. You know, in Canada, you've got players that most of the Canadians are playing in MLS, whether it be in Montreal, Vancouver, or in Toronto. Now that they have their Premier League going, which is really a third division league, because it's not their top flight. MLS in Canada is their top flight. But to see these players that are getting more of a chance in a professional level in Canada now, they are going to slowly become better. And forget about, as great as Alphonso Davies was for Bayern Munich, and for him to win a Champions League title with Bayern Munich over PSG, it can't just be rely on Davies and then you hope and pray everyone else can follow suit. No, everyone's got to be on the same page. I'm predicting right now, Canada, because they have John Herdman as their manager, will give them spark. And that goes back to their Nations League match against the U.S. at BMO Field when they beat the U.S. 2-0. I understand that Canada is not ranked highly, but at the same time, if you're facing a team that plays at home, that plays their home games, where Toronto FC plays their home games, and you're playing against a national team that has a manager who will give them the confidence and give them the verbal and the technical support that they need, they will beat you. You cannot take any opponent lightly. And that's why you see teams like Mexico do not take their opponents lightly. Yes, they'll have a bad day because they probably have a historical record against these other nations in CONCACAF that have beaten them fairly good when Mexico visits their nation. But still, though, Canada, if they improve big time and they improve to become a brand new power in this region, the North Zone will be very difficult to play against. And I wouldn't be surprised if Canada will be a tough nut to crack when you face them either at BMO Field in Toronto, Stade Saputo in Montreal, BC Place in Vancouver, or any other stadium they're going to play in for a World Cup qualifier. You don't assume it's a cakewalk. You must be prepared and ready to go. If you give it 100% and you still lose, you gave it your all, and that's all we can ask of you. But if you assume, 3 points in the bag, don't worry about it, well, then you're back to square one, and then you should not be on the national team anymore.
Well, Daniel, we'll see the U.S. men's national team have some friendlies coming up. And then, of course, next year, June 2021, is when they'll start World Cup qualifying. It'll be interesting with the Octagon, because it's not the Hex anymore.
No, it's not.
That'll be fun to see how it goes. But, yes, I agree with you. Canada's going to be a team to watch in future, not just this year and next year, but in future years to come, for sure.
Exactly. I will say that I believe Canada will get out of the first round because they're not playing anyone that dangerous in their group. It's going to be whoever Group E winner will be.
Haiti's in that group, so it's possible Canada could play Haiti in the second round.
That's very true. So because Haiti could be really dangerous, but Canada's got to take care of business depending on if they host the first leg or if they'll be on the road for the first leg. If they could get a couple of away goals on Haiti, they should be able to take the series, and then we'll see if they're going to be joining us in the Octagon. This is what I want to see. I want like UFC music. Michael Buffer's brother doing the announcements. Let's get it on. It should be fun. But yeah, I didn't like the original qualification set up by CONCACAF, but then thank goodness for this pandemic, they forced them to change it up. I'm very happy with what we got right now.
Definitely, especially for the smaller teams, give them a shot. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Daniel, since I know you've covered the New York Red Bulls very well up there in northern New Jersey, but when they play their rivals, New York City FC, the Hudson River rivalry, everyone talks about MLS, El Trafico, Orlando, Miami. We don't have a name yet for our rivalry. I've been saying let's call it the Pink and Purple Derby, but I have no takers on that one yet. Covering the Hudson River rivalry, why is it so special?
Well, I have to be honest with you. We're just a bunch of big mouths up here. We're very loud. We're very proud. There's always going to be arguments. You'll always have shouting matches. Doesn't matter if it's, Rangers, Islanders, Knicks, Nets, Yankees, Mets. I know the Jets and the Giants face each other once every 4 years in the regular season, but every year in the preseason, you're going to get a lot of conversation. You're going to get a lot of talking. So why not, Red Bulls and New York City FC? Even in the Open Cup when it was at the time Red Bulls and the New York Cosmos, there was a lot of jawing going on between the fans. But I'll tell you right now, this is why it's great, because our proximity is not far away from each other. I mean, you still have to travel to Carson, California to catch the Galaxy, and then you're vice versa. You have to go to downtown Los Angeles to catch LAFC. You know, I mean, Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, I mean, technically it's not that far, depending on, how far the cities are. You have to go over the border, but, those teams have been facing each other for like such a long period of time. That rivalry will never end. I mean, thankfully, there's an Amtrak train that goes up and down the coast on the west side. They will, you can hop on a train, boom. You get on a light rail to go to Providence Park in Portland. The King Street station in Seattle for Amtrak, it's just right there. It's just in between. It's like in between both the Mariners baseball stadium, the T-Mobile Park, and CenturyLink Field, Vancouver. Same thing. There are train stations not far away from BC Place or Rogers Center where the Canucks play. It's just a good rivalry that's not far away from each other. Here, you can either drive it, take New Jersey Transit from Manhattan, Penn Station, New York to Newark Penn Station, or you can take the PATH train that goes from World Trade Center to Harrison. That's why this rivalry is very close. You can take public transit and head on over from Manhattan into Harrison and the other way around. And let's not forget, there are people who live in New York City that still travel to New Jersey to watch their home team play. We're all over the place. New Yorkers are all over the place, and, we got something to say. And if we have to do it, so be it. I kind of think I have a name for the Orlando City Inter-Miami rivalry. And if you want to pass it along as it is your idea, you go right ahead. I give you permission. Just call it the Orange Grove series.
Okay.
I mean, come on, look, oranges are always going to be, the number one food industry in the entire state of Florida. You're always going to get orange juice here or orange juice there. There'll be a lot of orange juice mixers. I won't go there. But you'll have your Orangina spritzers and everything. You'll have fun. I think that's what it is. I mean, look, what used to be the Citrus Bowl at, the stadium, which is now Camping World Stadium, called the Citrus Bowl, called the Citrus Rivalry, the Citrus Orange Rivalry or something like that. At least you have oranges. I don't like El Tráfico for LA, but that's okay. That's their own thing. Let them have it. Here, where I am, the Hudson River separates both New York City and New Jersey. So you're always going to have, a lot of back and forth over that big, huge river. You got the Lone Star rivalry with FC Dallas, Houston Dynamo, very soon Austin FC. It could be the triple threat. We'll see what happens there. And, you'll have Toronto versus Montreal all the time. And, of course, there'll always be the I-95 rivalry if you want to include DC United, the New England Revolution, and the Philadelphia Union. So if you want to make it a lot broader, which it hasn't happened yet, but I wouldn't put it past them if they ever do something like that. So, why not? Let's go for it. I think the Orange Grove Derby would be the name for Miami, if Miami Inter Miami and Orlando City. I think that would work.
The Orange Grove Derby. We'll see how that plays out on social media. I'll definitely make a suggestion to Michael, see what he thinks. Daniel, so with everything we have going on right now with the COVID-19 global pandemic, what has the process been like for you covering the team currently?
It's been strange. I will admit it's been a little strange. I mean, I'm not going to say this is a new normal. I refuse to say it's a new normal. Now, I'm not saying that because I don't believe in this coronavirus, this COVID-19 situation. No, it's real. I believe in it. I just have this feeling that I want to get back to normal, our regular normal. The masks, we have to remain strong and vigilant. I understand there are people who can't stand it, but for now, just stay strong, keep wearing your masks until we have a real cure, a real vaccine, a real cure for this problem. And until then, we just have to remain strong. We have to remain vigilant. It's been strange because after the first 2 games of this MLS season, now you can't get to training at the Red Bulls training facility. I can't get to it. Everything is going to be done virtually now. Obviously, we're doing this interview through the Zoom. I've been using Zoom with my colleagues to talk to the head coach of the Red Bulls and Chris Armas. The last time it was with Daniel Royer and Tim Parker through the Zoom. We're going to have another Zoom call this coming Thursday before the New England Revolution match on Saturday on Fox Sports 1. It's been nice. It's been great. Still, though, I'd rather be, face-to-face with the players and face-to-face with the coach to talk about what's going to happen in their next game. I was at Red Bull Arena about a week ago for them being back in the local markets. There was the Hudson River Derby, and I was not in my press box. Basically, the press box side is where the players enter through the tunnel at Red Bull Arena. So we were located in the second deck along this terrace that's meant for for those who are handicapped, they're not able to walk up the stairs to their seats, that they'll be able to roll into a position to watch the game. So they had temporary tables, temporary seating, and just watching the game from there on the east side of the arena. A little strange, just a little strange, but you know what? As long as I'm there and doing my job, that's all that matters. I mean, I could go on the road, but it's not worth it right now. I've been on the road at least a couple of times. Here's the funny thing. I've actually been to Camping World Stadium before Explorer Stadium was built. And that was the 1-1 draw with Bradley Wright Phillips scoring a goal back in 2000. What was that? 2000? Did Camping World? Explorer opened up when? 2017?
2017.
Yeah. So 2016, I was at Camping World Stadium. And 2017, I was at Explorer Stadium. And, being inside Explorer Stadium was awesome. Being there was fantastic because, when you go to a brand new soccer stadium in the United States, you feel proud. You feel excited. You feel happy because for someone who covers the game and has been through all the verbal wars and the social media wars of, oh, you're not a real soccer league. Oh, yes, we are. No, you're not. Yes, we are. To go inside a building and say this is the future of American soccer, not just for the league, but also for our national team to play World Cup qualifiers in, that is something special. That is something that is worth going to. I've been to Subaru Park more than once. I love going there. It's better to drive down to Chester than it is to take public transportation because it's kind of far away. Also, traveling down by train to our nation's capital. Love the stadium. Love the location. It's not far away from not just Nationals Park, which is just diagonally across the street, but once you get off Amtrak, you take the local DC Metro subway. You got to take 2 lines. You got to take the red line from Union Station to Gallery Place, transfer to the green line that goes to Navy Yard Ballpark. It's 1 block to my hotel, and from my hotel, I'm behind Nationals Park. I just have to go around it, go directly across to Audi Field, and boom, I'm ready to go.
Daniel, how do you think MLS has handled the whole COVID-19 pandemic, getting through it. The season with the MLS returning to play with a lot of clubs returning to their home markets.
Fantastic. I give Don Garber a lot of credit because he could have just shut the season down. He could have just said, that's it. We're not going to play any games. The 25th season of MLS is canceled. We're not going to do what we want to do. Let's just pack it up and just not worry about who's going to be champion. What he did and what he was able to do to get all of the owners, all the investors in virtual room, to get them to say, you know what, we're gonna play this season. We want this season to continue. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a World Cup style tournament. The first 3 group stage games will all be for regular season points. Whoever advances to the second round, points won't count. They'll all be knockout stage games. Winner goes to the 2021 Champions League in CONCACAF. And then we're going to go back to our regular markets. So far, I have not heard a single player being tested positive for coronavirus. We know Dallas was thrown out. We know Nashville was thrown out because they contracted the coronavirus. They're much better now than where they were before. This is something that Don Garber, I give him credit for. He's done a wonderful job. And it sounds like the practices for each and every team are continuing out once the bubble is out. Once they were out of that bubble at the Walt Disney World Resort. All I can say is that I probably would have quit the season if I couldn't find a solution. Garber did, because he understood we're going to lose a lot of money. Cannot lose that much money and not play. I know, $1 billion, more, a little over $1 billion that they're going to lose out by not having fans in the seats, probably not have the merchandise sales that are going to happen, the food sales, the drink sales. The season tickets are already there, but we're not going to get charged for 2021 because they're going to probably push it forward. But then again, that's just my guess. I don't know about the season ticket situation, but still though, just a lot of issues that could have been thrown out there. And Don Garber said, no, I'm going to stare it right in the face. I'm going to say, no, we're not going to have an issue. We're going to play through it. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to do it safely, positively, and make sure that we are all going to get this job done and get this season taken care of. Fantastic job by Don Garber. Great job by the league. He deserves a lot of credit for putting everything on the forefront and being positive about it.
Yes, Daniel, and I agree that MLS, even though this with everything going on, difficult circumstances, but had his plan in place, had the COVID-19 protocols for the players to follow. They had a great job with the MLS's back tournament here in Orlando. It went off really well. And with the teams returning to home markets, it's smart that MLS is doing a regional type of group schedule, like USL doing the same thing, a regional type schedule. In the NBA, of course, down the road from us here as well, doing a bubble schedule. NHL is doing a bubble in Canada, or Major League Baseball, and soon the NFL are going to be going cross country. So it's just crazy how you've seen so many different leagues take different approaches. But so far, the bubble or regional format is working.
It is, and that's a great thing to see. Obviously, it would have been nice to maybe take on an LAFC, LA Galaxy, San Jose Earthquakes. But you know what? Right now, we got to keep it regional. And like I said, once there's a cure found and once there's a vaccine found and we can give it to everyone and anyone, I think I would like to see restrictions loosen up a lot better. But until that time, we just have to remain where we are. We just have to remain strong and vigilant. and just keep wearing masks. That's all I ask from everyone, just to please keep wearing their masks, because we don't want to get sick. We don't have to have this pandemic, get ravaged up again, get, ratcheted up again. We can't have that, because it's important to make sure that this thing is going to be completely dead.
I agree, Daniel. I agree. All right, Daniel, I just got a couple more questions before we go. So I was curious, because you announced in February that you have your show, the Feuerstein Fires American Soccer Show, decided to partner with the NPSL, the National Premier Soccer League. I was just curious, how did that all came together?
Well, here's the thing. Of course, U.S. Soccer had their Open Cup Round 1 draw announced. And I had on at least 4 different teams on my show. I had on Atlantic City FC. I had on the Denton Diablos from NPSL. I had North Carolina Fusion Under 23 head coach on from USL League 2. And Newtown Pride in Newtown, Connecticut. I had their head coach on the show as well. Gary Moody, who is the head of media for the league, of course, he told his social media team, look at this. Daniel Feuerstein is interviewing 2 owners of our teams on his show to review the draw and the teams they're going to face in the first round of the U.S. Open Cup. So directly after that, I get an email from Mr. Moody, and he asked if he wanted to talk to me. And so I, gave him a phone call, talked to him, and he said that, thank you for taking our 2 owners and going forward with it. And he just asked me, would you like to become a media partner for the league? I asked what that entailed. And well, if you want to do an NPSL show to, our teams to be represented on, an NPSL show only, we'd love to help you provide with guests, players, owners, coaches. And, it was a lot of fun. Now, I know this pandemic happened, and I had on other owners, for the ENPSL tournament from Duluth FC, Central Florida Panthers owner, and Giovanni Talafiera. Other teams as well. And I had the chairman of the NPSL on to, unfortunately, he had the difficult decision to shut the league down for the rest of the season, because obviously the pandemic was really horrible, and just didn't want to take any risks. Was forced to shut it all down. So all I can say is that it was a lot of fun to have these teams coming on my show and talking about their sides and talking about, being in the Open Cup, that qualified for it. And, what I did not know about Napa Valley's NPSL team. The diehard supporters are bringing over corkscrews and they're banging it on the metal benches that they sit on during home games. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's crazy.
Corkscrews. We're talking about with the handle and the screw in between your fingers, and they just bang it on the metal bleachers at their games. That is something I had no idea about, and that was a lot of fun. And what I was going to do was, after the first round of the Open Cup was going to be over, whichever 2 or 3 teams of the NPSL that I was going to have on my regular Open Cup review show, any other team that advanced out of the first round, I would have had them on a separate NPSL show. Unfortunately, neither happened. but that'll be, for next year, for 2021.
All right, Daniel, before I let you go, my bonus question is, today I was seeing on social media, of course, we all heard the news what happened yesterday. Shocked the world, breaking news. Lionel Messi told Barcelona he wants to leave. So today, we're hearing news about, he's talking about joining Manchester City. And then after 3 years, they're going to apparently send him to New York City FC to finish off his career. That just drives me crazy. But what do you think of the possibility if Lionel Messi decided to come to play for New York City FC? Like, how is that going to bring soccer craziness to New York City and the New Jersey metropolitan area?
Well, first things first, let me just say this. I think that it makes no sense to have Messi for 3 years and then you send him to NYCFC. If he wants to go to Manchester City, just let him play there for the rest of his career. The truth is, if Messi wants to come to MLS, let him just come straight to MLS. You don't have to, play 3 years in England and then go to New York City. You don't have to do that. Just come straight to MLS. He's got nothing to prove in Europe anymore. What's he going to do in the Premier League? He's going to get kicked. He's going to get harassed. He's not going to get respect. They're not going to let him run all over the place. They're going to foul him. They're going to chop him down. Yeah, there'll be something like that here in MLS, but the truth is that his star will shine much brighter here if he just comes straight over. Now, I saw on ESPN that PSG wants to bring over Lionel Messi. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. Will he go to Manchester City? Will he go straight to MLS? Will he go to Man City for 3 years and then they go to New York City FC for 1 year, which I think is ridiculous because it makes no sense? Or does he go to PSG? We'll have to find out. But the thing is that, breakups are messy things sometimes. MESSY, not MESSI. I never thought he'd ever leave Barcelona. If he ever did leave Barcelona, I thought he would go straight to Argentina and play for his hometown club, whichever club that is. Or maybe he goes to either River Plate or Boca Juniors. So I kind of see that more than I would maybe coming to MLS. But I will say this. It would be very interesting to see where he does want to go. Who knows? Maybe he's bluffing. Maybe he'll stay at Barcelona. But the truth is that if he's done at Barca, I don't think he'll come to MLS. I would think he would either go – I think he would go to France and play for PSG, or he would go back to Argentina and just play for either Boca Juniors or River Plate or play for his hometown team, wherever that is in Argentina.
Well, Daniel, like the rest of us will just have to wait and see. And I told my friends yesterday, nobody knows what Messi wants. We just have to wait and see how it all plays out. All I know is if he does leave Barcelona is the end of the era. It's not going to be the same Blaugrana team. And I never thought in a million years I would watch a La Liga game with no Messi and no Ronaldo.
Well, let me just say this. Sooner than later, the era had to end. I know they're having issues with La Masia. They're not developing the players that used to come through their pipeline, through their academy. Every once in a while, you're going to hit a lull. And maybe the lull has finally hit Barcelona. The New York Red Bulls, they have an academy. They developed their own players. Tyler Adams came over. Derek Etienne Jr. came over. Jared Stroud, Brian White, Tom Barlow. These are the players that come through the academy that get an opportunity to play, and they've done brilliantly. I know Tyler now is with Red Bull Leipzig, but when you're trying to develop players and you're trying to give them an opportunity to go forward into MLS, you got to hope they take the proverbial bull by the horns and make sure they dominate. But outside of that, I just think it's been brilliant that what Lionel Messi has done. But I will say this, if Messi comes and plays in MLS, his star will continue to shine as bright as it did at Barcelona because people will come to watch him play. They will come and watch him play, without a doubt. I just think what Manchester City is doing, have him play 3 years for them and then send him to the Bronx, that makes no sense. You're going to have him for Man City, you leave him there at Man City till the end of his career. If he wants to come to MLS and be with New York City FC, then so be it. If he wants to play for the Red Bulls, welcome aboard. Because I will say this, if he comes and does everything he does for the Red Bulls like he did for Barcelona, that midfield will be very potent with not just Kaku on the left, but with Florian Valot on the right. He'll probably have Daniel Royer up top. I don't know if he'll be by himself, but one thing is for sure. You can mess it around a little bit. You can do a 4-3-3. And you can have another forward up top. So, I mean, why not? Let's see what happens. But I'll tell you right now, if Messi does come here, at least the Red Bulls play a pressing system. And that should fit his style.
All right, Daniel. Well, I wanted to thank you for taking time tonight to share with us your insights on your career and making that pitch for Lionel Messi to come join the New York Red Bulls.
Better to be in a soccer stadium than in a baseball stadium, that's for sure. You can't find a second base with grass covering it,
All right, guys. And that was Daniel Feuerstein, New York Red Bulls reporter for SB Nation's Once a Metro and the host of the Feuerstein's Fire American Soccer Show. Tune in tomorrow on the Hot Seat on Full Sail Live as we'll have World Soccer Talk co-host Kartik Krishnaiyer on the show. That will conclude this edition of the Hot Seat on Full Sail Live. I'm Josh Taylor. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.